Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning for our City Council Budget Build Program Tax Solution. We'll go ahead and get started. Connie, could you please call the roll?
Cheatham.
Here.
Lurick. Here. Mangum.
Here.
Mansfield.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Paulson. Black.
Here, thank you. We'll move to agenda item number 2 is employee benefits. Heather Buchanan, Human Resources Director, will give a presentation regarding the following: a medical, RX plan, vision plan, and dental plan. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning, everybody. Heather Buchanan, Human Resources Director. I have 2 agenda items today. They're kind of lumped into one presentation, so the mayor might need to reintroduce our agenda item as we're midway through our PowerPoint.
No, we won't do that. We'll just let you do it and go from
Okay.
there.
So we are on part 2 of our personnel budget build, and today we do have a few action items for you for final direction on the budget. All of these are built in, so any changes that you make will differ from the numbers Jean will present after me. So first up is our benefits. For dental, we are in our 3rd year of our MetLife contract. We are looking at a 6% increase, and we left the funding splits between the city and the employees as is. And those numbers are built into salary projections. If you want any changes there, now would be a good time to let me know.
Do we need a motion to move forward with that, or just direction?
I think just direction and a motion if you want to make a change.
Okay. So we'll stick, if you want to change, we'll do a motion. If it's all looks good, then we'll just leave it.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
If I might ask, is there a reason we should consider a change in your opinion?
No,
Okay.
I have no problem bringing you change, and this is a benefit that's worked well and the funding levels are adequate.
Have we had any problems with MetLife?
They're a little bit more challenging than some of our other carriers simply because of the administration side. They don't do cards like you get for medical carriers. Providers in town have a little bit more trouble. When we run into those situations, our broker, AJ Argyle, usually calls the office and helps them through our billing or our benefit to make it easier for employees.
Okay, Brent?
And Mayor, you might be able to probably answer this question for me. As we move forward here, if we give a tentative nod to these, is that just a tentative nod for now, or we are forever locked into that?
Well, I
decision?
think that at any time during the budgeting session, we
Right.
can change this up a little bit, but you give a nod now, we will just keep it included in the budget as is right now.
But
And as Heather said, these have all been built into the budget, and so anything we change, we'll change the numbers, but we'll get those changed for you. But yeah, we can probably change this if we decided, like dental and stuff, if we decide to change that, we need to know sooner than later, because Heather doesn't have time to get a new,
right, and I didn't mean necessarily just in
Yeah.
relation to dental. It's as we go.
as we go
everything
through.
today.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So you know, council, the slides that you will see is built the way has everything in it. The budget is built into it. The medical, when Heather gets to medical, we've budgeted in the budget for the higher amount just in case, so that we have those numbers the way it is right now. So.
Mr. Mayor.
So, yeah,
Okay, thank
we
you.
can still change, but,
Right, I understand. Thank you.
yep.
So, Ms. Heather, if there's a change with like our health insurance and say like VIBA goes away, how does that factor in with this program or this this exact insurance? Because some people take that VIBA money, set it off to the side for orthodontists and things like that. So how does all of that, or will that be factored together?
So our dental plan doesn't, for example, cover any orthodontia, so people do allocate their VIBA that way. I'm not presenting VIBA today because I didn't get any preliminary number adjustments from you when I presented way back in May.
Yeah.
Years ago, it feels like. Let me show you medical, and then I'll explain how a change would affect what Jean's about to present to you.
Okay.
I might just add, though, for any staff that's looking, we are not looking to change VIBA. We're not interested in changing VIBA right now. And so I don't want anybody to think back there we're panicked a little bit. We're not doing that. I don't know where VIBA came from on that
No.
one, but
No, I'm just wondering, like, if there's anything that's going to offset, because there's a 6% increase, right?
There
And we're
is.
not changing anything, but if anything, I'm just seeing if there's anything that's going to impact these other pieces.
Yeah.
Because sometimes health insurance, dental, vision, all these other things, they compound, and one will impact another. And so holistically, if we make a change to this one, does it impact the other?
The change to dental is one of the smallest benefits you can adjust. 6% of that budget versus like 20% of medical is a very different number.
Right.
But Gene has all of these costs built in, and then he'll tell you what our gap is. Hopefully that's a good gap and not a bad gap.
yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Rick?
may follow up. Your recommendation is to leave the percentage split as it is. How is that 6% increase, how's that going to affect that split on both sides?
It applies at the beginning of the rate, and then we split the rate out. So we'll each see an incremental change.
Okay, and how much will that be on each side?
I knew you were going to ask that. I would have to get you those numbers after Gene presents, because I don't have them handy.
What about just the percentage rather than the dollar amount?
An employee only, the city pays 100%. For an employee plus one, the city pays $42 and the employee pays $13, just as an example. Employee plus two or more, the city pays $54 and the employee pays $25.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, looks like we're leaving it.
Okay. So next up is medical. Now, normally you would see AJ Argyle sitting beside me. However, he has already come down and had this meeting with the mayor, Holly Harnsberger, and myself. So a lot of this conversation I'm going to direct towards the mayor as our respondent. Our initial renewal came in at 23.3%. Our experience is the worst I've ever seen it. Our medical claims are up 60% through the second quarter. Our fiscal year loss ratio is at 108%, and in May, we ran at 184% loss ratio. So it hasn't been the easiest year for us with medical. We have some very, very large claimants, and unfortunately, we have quite a few. The majority of those claimants are considered a shock loss claimant, so this isn't a chronic condition. This is something you can't kind of wellness program your way out of. We did a quick market check, which is where AJ does a tentative touch with carriers to see where we would sit. There was interest in our plan, so we did do a formal RFP. We did get responses from that, and I'm going to show you our three options, and then the mayor's probably going to be our best respondent here. So first up is Blue Cross. They started out at 23.3. We have wrangled them down to 14.7. And we got a second year rate cap, which is rare from Blue Cross. Select Health came in at 12.5 with implementation credits, and then 10.9 on year two. And Pacific Source came in at 9.5 with the implementation credit and a 9.9% on year two. To break these down into current numbers, just so you can see them. Currently, for an employee only, the city's paying $726. With the new Blue Cross rate, the city will pay $833. On Select Health, we'd pay $817, and on Pacific Source, we'd pay $795. Overall costs are the blue line that shows you what the increase over 24 is, the line directly below it. So if we stay with Blue Cross, our costs will go up 1.2 million. With Select Health, we'd go up 1 million, and with Pacific Source, we'd go up just over 800,000.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
deductibles and,
Everything
Value.
is exactly matched.
okay.
Councilmember
That was
Mansfield?
my question.
Okay. Yes.
Could you go back a minute to the Select Health and the Pacific Source? What was the Pacific Source's 9.5 and Select Health was 12? 12.5, okay. Thank you.
There are slight nuances of different, but there is some coverage differences, and the mayor's had a few more conversations about those than I have.
So right now, council, what we have built into the budget is the Blue Cross number. And so that if we decide to go down, then we'll go down. I've got one more meeting or a discussion that I would like to have with Select Source. I've spoke with Blue Cross and Blue Cross came down about 10% and then gave us a second year cap, which was good after we did that. I need to speak with Select Source because there's some nuances in that Select Source that I don't love. And I think it will affect our employees a lot more than what I'm comfortable with right now, but I think we can work through those. Pacific Source just does not have a network really in Idaho, and so just right off the bat, though it's the cheapest, I'm not a big fan of Pacific Source. My recommendation would be that we just kind of throw that out and we look at the other two. Some of the things that I'm concerned with Select Source is the people that are out of network, the hospitals and things that are out of network. For example, Bingham is not in network. University of Utah is not in network, and we have a number of employees that use both. And so I would like some clarification of what that looks like before we jump in and change our carrier.
Mr. Mayor, is that Select Health or Pacific Source?
Select Health.
Okay.
Pacific Source, Heather would have to help me a little bit with Pacific Source. It was just, when that came up, it was just not a favorite for myself, Heather, AJ. I mean, it just was not something that we felt comfortable entertaining as far as employees go.
Yeah.
And so I've got Linda and then Brent.
I agree with everything you're saying. I know other organizations that have used both of the other two and had a lot of issues. So I understand the price difference, but in the end, I'm not sure how much you save too with all those other complications of out of network. And I mean, it saves the city money, but I don't know that it's the way to go. Of those three, I feel best about Blue Cross in terms of the service and what they offer. I'd be interested to hear what you can work out with
So
Select Health,
Select Source is really a good company and is very favorable. In fact, Heather and AJ both liked Select Source. They can do some things that are one-offs, but we have a lot of one-offs if that's the case. And so I do have a call that I need to return from Select Source to
like
get
to
some
hear
clarification
more.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And so I'll get that done sometime this afternoon and hopefully be able to visit with them and stuff. But right now, they like Select Source. I like to know what we've got. And although Blue Cross has not been as easy to work with for both AJ and Heather, and we've had to strong arm a few things to get some answers out of people too, and that's not what we would like to see either. So
I guess I just want to keep the benefits as good as they can be. Obviously, we all do, but I don't want our employees to lose too much of what they have. So, yeah.
Councilman Nichols.
Mayor, I have probably a two-part question, maybe half for you and one
Okay.
for Heather. So as far as physicians and hospitals and so forth that are within network, does Blue Cross have the best coverage? Or do we know?
It's kind of hard to address what you mean by best coverage.
Okay, well, equivalent number of physicians that would be in network under one company versus another company.
There's a regional answer and there's a national answer.
So we're looking at a regional, not necessarily a
I'm
national.
actually looking comparative between the three, which would give the best coverage to the employee as far as finding physicians that were in network.
Regionally, probably your answer is Blue Cross, just because we know the networks.
Okay,
Once you get out of the region, they go into different national networks. But I think they're all, I think our biggest concern with networks has to do strictly tied to Bingham and the University of Utah. Those are, I think, our number 2 and 3 hospitals that our employees utilize. That would be a major hit to our employees.
right. And then is there any cost, say, to your department to switching over? I can imagine that could be quite a process.
A carrier changeover it is challenging. It is something we have done in the past. It is difficult for employees simply because it is a mandatory enrollment and everyone has to register and they have to relearn everything. We try to take care of a lot of the things like where you get your prescription carried over between vendors. It's not always a perfect shuffle. Sometimes a card pops out. There's no way for it to be flawless, but with AJ's help and Holly's expertise, we're pretty proficient at doing it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and with prescriptions and stuff, Select Health is a little bit easier to handle than Blue Cross. And so both of them have goods and negatives about it and stuff. But I've got Councilmember Cheatham, and then I've got Councilmember Mangum and Mansfield, and then Lyric.
Mr. Mayor, notably, I see Regents is missing from this.
They did not opt in to bid. I believe their plate is a bit full with the July changeover at the state level. We were hoping to see them bid in. They just took on a massive market share in Idaho. I don't think it was within their bandwidth, and to be frank, our experience is atrocious.
Yeah, that was very noticeable when we talked. I asked the same question, where's Regents? And that was we think that they are just definitely overwhelmed right now, and they
Say that they're not.
well, they might say that they're not. Then it's they're either overwhelmed and not being honest with you there, or they looked at our experience rating and said, "There's no way we're messing with it."
It's
One
not
of the
pretty.
two.
Our heat map is the worst I've ever seen it for claims.
And so, yeah, we need to try to figure that out. But like Heather said, that these are some one-time things that the health program that we have just won't fix and can't fix. You can't do a lot of things with, some of the things that have happened to the employees and their families, and that's been a big hit for us. And we're hoping that starts to settle down a little bit. But Mangum, Mansfield, and Lyric.
So as related to the budget, I would say let's leave it where it's at with Blue Cross for now until you're able to have those conversations and fine tune some things. But that's just the direction that I suggest that we would go.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions, if I may. The first one, can you describe some of the specifics of the network coverage deficiencies of Pacific Source?
Let me go grab a piece of paper.
Let's go to another question, and
Okay.
I'll let Heather cover that because it was, yeah.
Okay. Then I wanted to make a couple comments on Select Health. So I work in healthcare and primarily deal with insurance. Like that's 95% of my job is coordinating insurance and network coordination. I have a question for Heather. Maybe I should wait because I have a question I'd like to address to Heather as well. So
Okay.
why don't you just come back to me and
All right, we'll come back to you, Lyric. Or do we just want to wait? Do you want to wait for Heather too?
Yeah.
Let's take a break.
Okay, I've got after Lyric, and then I will have Paulson. Unless you have something now.
Yeah, no, I agree with Corey. If it's best for the city employees, saving $400,000 is good, but if it's the best for the city workers, then I think keep it at Blue Cross.
Okay. All right.
The other point too on that is if it has to come down later, we can bring it down later.
Oh, yeah.
But like, just leave it.
That would be my recommendation, is you leave it here and let's have that, and then Thursday we'll have a discussion, or I can at least let you know what happened and see where everybody wants to go.
Gene, can you pull the year 2 caps real quick on the slides. Just go back and
No.
just pull them up for me, thanks.
Year two, Select Source was 10.9.
Where did you want to go?
Pacific Source was 9.9.
Pacific was 9.9, and what was Blue Cross's?
Blue Cross was 15, I want to say. Yeah, 15 cap.
What was it like? 15?
Blue Cross 15, Select Health 10.9.
Okay.
Pacific Source 9.9.
They all have questions for you, and so,
I should have walked slower.
that's right.
Okay, so I
So
can
back
address
to Mansfield.
Pacific
network.
Source, yeah, please.
So Pacific Source uses the nationwide Aetna network. Select Health uses the nationwide IHC network. With Select Health, the U is out, but Huntsman and Children Primary are in network. Does that help?
It does.
Okay.
So, I'm also not a fan of the Aetna network. I've seen it be deficient in other ways. It's the same one that UHC relies on, I believe. UHC Aetna plans, I think, are what typical or common, at least of their Med C plans. Of the Select Health, though, does Select Health have the capacity? So some insurances, when they don't have a provider service and network, will allow them to do individualized like service approvals.
One-offs.
Yeah, and you have to get approval. You're gonna have to submit for authorization. But the one that in context that I'm thinking of when I think of Bingham, we had this discussion, is the Women's Health Clinic.
So Bingham is included in network with both Select Health and Pacific Source.
Bingham is included.
Bingham is in network,
Okay.
and Portneuf is in network with
Yes.
both as well. But Select Health includes Huntsman and primary, or Children's Primary,
Select Health does, yes.
but Pacific Source does not.
I believe they're in network for Pacific Source as well.
What are the deficiencies then in Pacific Source compared to Select Health?
I believe a lot of it is market share.
Okay,
Pacific Source and Select Health have better prescription drug coverage than what we currently have. We have a 6-tier plan. They have a 4-tier plan. Out of network on Select Health is slightly higher than Pacific Source. X-ray is slightly better on Select Health. Emergency room is basically equivalent
between those two.
between all three.
Between all three. I personally am incredibly hesitant to move forward with Blue Cross numbers. Blue Cross, we wouldn't be the first ones that would be losing Blue Cross. I know employers are making switches over from Blue Cross as well in the private sector because of the costs. And $400,000 this year might not look like a significant amount, but then at another 14% again next year, this compounds very, very, very quickly. Select Health coverage, from my experience, has been completely adequate and covers patient services to the same level of Blue Cross. And in fact, commercial Select Health have lower copay for certain services than Blue Cross, in my experience, for outpatient physical therapy and in-home health services. The other part that I think is noteworthy is that as you increase in compound insurance the way that Blue Cross does at the 5 or more higher percentage differential, I think that begins to greatly affect our ability to continue to staff at the levels that we do. When we're having to do salary and benefits projections that are increasing at the percentage rates due to the benefits package, I think that looking at alternatives like Select Health or Pacific Source, Pacific Source pulled out of Southeast Idaho. They used to have plans in Southeast Idaho. They removed and end services on January 1 of this year. The only reason they're coming back, my assumption would be because we are a large enough pool to constitute our own risk group, but they did not have other plans. Select Health has been negotiating their contracts with Ardent, which is the parent company that oversees Portneuf and owns 36 hospitals across the country. Select Health is expanding. They're becoming a major competitor to UHC, which is trying to offer the same full service package of Med C Advantage plans, commercial, employer-based, as well as public exchange. So I personally would prefer to build in Select Health at the minimum over Blue Cross.
Okay. Linda,
So my question is related to potentially changing carriers. And this may or may not apply, so I just wanted to get your take on this. I have a couple of good friends that are in the insurance business, and everybody's talking about how awful it is right now, that rates are just going crazy. Most of what I hear about is related to property insurance. So I'm wondering, and they're basically saying, don't change, because moving right now will just, you'll then want to try and get back where you were, and it's really a bad thing to move away from the carrier, that they're all bad in terms of the rates and the increases and everything and the coverage, that the insurance world is just in chaos right now, and therefore if you move, you might really regret it. Does that apply in the medical coverage world at all?
Linda, you bring me such nice, easy questions
I
on a
know.
Tuesday morning. Thank you.
Because I hear what Josh is saying, and I do want to, I want to look at what is best for our employees, first and foremost, and what is best cost-wise. But I'm also really nervous about switching companies based on what I'm hearing.
I think the provider, the carriers that you're seeing, I think they're all legitimate companies. I think they have good business models. I can tell you Blue Cross is losing its market share in Idaho. 2 years ago, they filed for for-profit status in Idaho. They are no longer a nonprofit insurance company. They talk profit margins now when they look at our assessments, which is something that we're not used to seeing. It is big business. Medical insurance is a nightmare regardless of what carrier you're with. AJ has very good relationships with all 3 companies. I think we will be fine if we choose to switch or we stay. We will be fine either way. We will make it work, and we will give the resources to employees. AJ and I regularly are on the phone helping employees get coverage needs or questions answered. Holly handles a vast amount of walk-in traffic that AJ and I never see. But if it hits the level that AJ and I are now pestering presidents of companies, we do get it done, and that will continue with whatever carrier we are with.
Okay. That makes me feel a little more comfortable. I was just concerned based on what I'm hearing about switching companies, but that then makes me a little more interested in hearing what Select Health can do for us. I'm not interested in Pacific Source personally, but I think we should consider Select Health based on how your conversations go. Maybe for now, for the budget, build it at the highest one so that we're safe no matter what, but seriously consider Select Health.
And I can bring AJ in for Thursday if he's available, if you would like to
Hear
cover him with
more.
questions.
Okay,
if we need to, I'll see if I can't get a hold of them this afternoon
yeah.
and have that discussion with them to see, so I can get some clarity with Select Health. I've got concerns with all 3 of them.
I do
But I
too.
agree, Pacific Source to me is, we went down the Etna Trail
I know.
and we didn't love it.
We regretted that and went back, and that worries me.
At the time, it was the right move.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was the right move at the time.
Exactly.
For sure. Okay.
But, yeah.
I've got one that says go to Select Health. I've got 2 that says stay at Blue Cross. I've got a comment.
Yeah, one more quick comment. I just did quick calculator numbers. Gene probably can do them in his head and knows that I'm wrong, but quick calculator numbers with year 2 cap would result in a savings of about $1.1 million by going with Select Health, so over Blue Cross over this year and next year. So it's what compounding percentage does. So it's $400,000 this year, $670,000 next year on those differences. So,
Okay.
and the year after that. Anyway, but pretty significant.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may ask a question, does agreeing to this have any multi-year contractual obligations, or is this for just one fiscal year?
I believe the contracts that I've reviewed have an opt-out clause for us.
Any expense to the opt-out?
No. I did request those contracts.
So it would be a 1-year
Yeah.
commitment, but it could be longer?
Well, we would have the second year rate lock if we choose to exercise that.
Okay.
I can feel AJ gritting his teeth sitting in his office in Idaho Falls right now.
He's going like crazy. Councilmember Paulson?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to Select Health. Just after your information, I don't want to give a hard yes or no before that.
Yeah. So let's leave it at Blue Cross numbers right now, and hopefully we'll have some answers for Thursday morning that we can.
Would you like AJ here on Thursday if possible?
Yeah,
I would.
Yes, sounds like it.
Mr. Mayor. One more question. Is there any indication that the dramatic increase in claims that we had are a one-off kind of claim, or are they things that are going to continue in the future?
Good luck.
We have a few, I'm going to say limited shock loss claims. For example, a broken bone. That's usually a one-time or within a year. A chronic condition that someone's diagnosed with, there's usually no end date on those. Those are ongoing costs, even though they were not preventative. We probably lean more heavily towards the ongoing cost.
Okay.
Okay.
All
We'll
right.
build it that way, and we'll have figure it out if we're going to switch it over, but at least we won't have to increase. We can decrease if
Yeah,
we.
it's
if we
easier
do
to
that.
take money away than add it.
Sure.
Okay, so just as a follow-up, these positions, we did get approval to build into the budget. So the positions, the numbers Jean presents will include these 4 head count. These are the 50-50 splits we talked about. These positions are not included in the budget, and if you choose to add them, they will increase the numbers Jean is talking about. We had talked about building the paramedic authority into the budget. I ran out of time to figure out what those will be on the new fire scale, so we will do those as a mid-year budget amendment for the authority if Chief O'Hearn needs those. The business license coordinator and the economic development position, we've slotted those here, but again, I didn't build them in because I'm still kind of fuzzy on how to fund them. So they're here for your consideration. And if you want those, Gene will tack those onto his spreadsheet.
We were a little fuzzy on that to start with. I do have a quick question. Paramedics, that mid-year budget request is a county thing. It's still just a
It
pass-through
would
or
only
not?
be authority for him to expend the money, and then he
Okay.
would have to bring the revenue in.
All right.
So that's the easiest slide you're gonna see today. All right, so here are your action items, and I do need action items on these. This is 3, 4, and 5. So 3, for everyone who is not on a sworn police union or the fire union, we built 1.5 in for a table adjustment. So we gave everyone a step, and then we increased the table by 1.5%. For fire management, that cost is just under $6,000. For police management, the cost is just under $70,000. However, just as a note, we did take the police management package and we pulled all of the ad pays out of that and built them into their base. And then lastly, employees on the general scale, and that includes police civilians. The cost is 1.9 million. However, the general fund is 570,000 of that. So each of these is built at 1.5%, and that's what Jean will present. If you want to make any changes to that funding, this is the time to do so.
So that's one step plus the one.
Yeah, the step was presented at the last meeting. This is the table adjustment that you asked to bring tentative numbers on.
Okay, let's go, Councilmember Mansfield.
So I'm like tentatively, like that sounds nice. I don't know what that looks like though until I have an understanding of like how far over we are. And so it's hard to necessarily give direction. Is this, I guess the question, and you'll get to this in a minute, Gene, I guess is or Thursday, are we within the realm of feasibility
Yes.
at 1.5%? Okay, great. That's what I like.
So what I can do is print this slide for you till Jean's done presenting, and then we can revisit it if you would like to make changes.
I think for me, that's
So
what
I
I
want,
need.
I want to make sure we've in the budget that Gene is presenting, we have the 1.5 plus the step.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's across the board with fire, police, and.
Police
general
sworn had
employees.
a step plus 3.5.
Yeah,
And fire has a new scale, which we agreed to at like 11 o'clock on a Friday night. And then 1.5 to the scale.
okay.
So I will print this for your consideration if you would like to revisit once Gene's given you big budget numbers.
Yeah, let's hold off on it for a minute. Any other questions here?
Just to confirm, we're saying 1.5 plus a step.
Plus a
Is what
step,
all of
yes.
these, and that's already in the
It's already
budget
built
now.
into what Gene presents.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I can, Mayor, Council, so what is built into the budget, which I'll cover, is the Blue Cross at the 14.7 or 15%, plus the 6% for dental, and then 1.5 plus the step. And that's what we've got right now, built into the budget, so we can, just so you have that in mind.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Other questions?
This is all that's going to be on this slide. So if you're expecting a wonderful graphic, this is all I got for you. So we have reached tentative agreement with the fire union on wages and benefits. We are meeting again in July, and we are proceeding with fact-finding because there are items still left on the table. We have tentatively agreed to basically eliminating the majority of their ad pays and rolling them into their base. We have, so that ends longevity. It took me 8 years, but I'm successful. They are moving to a step and grade table that is 12 steps. And they are getting placed on the table, and then we are adding 1.5%. It is looking like a 4-year contract with 1.5% table adjustments each year plus a step movement.
Can you just say that last sentence? It's looking like what?
I can try. It's looking like a 4-year contract with a 1.5% table adjustment each year, plus a step movement in years 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay.
That's it.
Looks like we've got those questions done and everything. So the salary, you're done with agenda item number 3. You
And I
have
will
anything else?
print that slide for you if you would like to revisit.
Well, we'll get through agenda item 4, and then we may bring you back up and put the slide back up on the screen for us, if needs be. So, okay, then we will move to agenda item number 4, fiscal year 2025 budget presentation. Gene Hill, Chief Financial Officer, will present a draft budget proposal to council members for their consideration and input.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Again, Gene Hill, member of the Finance Team. A couple things I'd like to just quickly go over before we jump into the budget, if I can. First of all, I'd really like to thank the staff and the department heads, because it's really been a very consolidated budget year this year, because some crazy person went on vacation for 3 weeks. So again, just to go over this, we're including a 3% increase for operation or for OpEx. We're increasing the 1.5 market adjustment plus the 1 step that Heather covered. And again, 6% dental, 15% for health. Again, she covered that we're only having the 4 employees included in it, 2 for parks, 2 for street. And then there's a little bit of a question, if I can just kind of cover this real quick, about interfund activity. I just wanted to address this ahead so that maybe we can cover that. Is, you know, interfund activity is basically services. For example, if a service is provided from the outside, like a phone, right, a phone system, IT is billed for that, and then they spread it around to each department based on the number of phones. So, you know, you may have where fire has 200 phones, so they're going to have a bigger allocation of that versus maybe the mayor's office that has 5 phones. Another example would be like insurance, liability insurance, right? It is allocated based on basically your rate and the fact that you've had whatever accidents you've had because you're at higher risk if you've had a lot of accidents, property, and then the number of employees. And so that goes across both the enterprise and the tax. Does that, I hope, makes that very simple, and we're trying to simplify that as much as we can. It's still evolving as we try to find easier ways to do this, but I just wanted to clarify that before I jumped into it. So any questions on that?
Council, any questions on interfund transfers? Okay.
The first part I'd like to cover in the budget is the community bear with me one second. So can you see that?
We can.
So this is, again, what we have, the city has helped the nonprofits. On the first column, you'll see this is what was given out in fiscal year '24. Fiscal year '25, these are the requests. In the green are the ones that we funded last year for a total of 133. We built into the budget 169,000. So that leaves about 36,000 that we have that can be distributed. With that, we need some direction on what council would like to do.
Well, let's just go down the line. Council, Aid for Friends has asked for $8,000 again this year. Are we comfortable with $8,000 to Aid for Friends?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's look at Family Services Alliance, 17.5. Comfortable with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I got a majority that says yes there. Visit Pocatello is an increase to of $5,000 to 20. Are we okay with that?
No.
Okay, I've got one no.
What was this one again?
This is Visit Pocatello, the group that markets Pocatello. This mostly goes for like a grant match and things like that, and to help pay for an employee there, if I remember right. I don't know all of what they do, but they have to market with this. I want to say they get like a $280,000 grant, and that's to market our area, Pocatello. And so we've done 15, and they've asked for 20. I've got a no on that.
I'm a yes.
I got a yes.
Probably no.
I got a no.
No, leave.
I got a no.
I say leave it at 15.
Yeah, I think 15.
Okay, I got a majority that has said 15.
Mayor, I have a-
Are you comfortable with 15 with all my no's? Comfortable with 15?
Yes.
Okay.
Which
We've
one?
got, we're talking about Visit Pocatello right now. Okay, so let's move that to 15 opposed to 20.
Mayor, before we proceed, we're proposing 169,000 up from 119,000 last year. Is that right?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so that's a 15. Pocatello Free Clinic from 18 to 20.
Yes.
Yes.
Solid yeses. Sister City Foundation to 2,500.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a yes. Sika from 23,000 to 30,000.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, I think I got 4 yeses there. Leave that. Senior Center from 35,000 to 35,000.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Valley Mission. Last year we did not do anything. They were not operating. If you remember, they had I'm trying to remember, they had a 2-part request, totaled 45,000. 22,000
Was a refund on their business license, I believe?
was a refunded business license. I think it
The
was
building,
22.
like building,
For
permitting, stuff like
Building
that.
and stuff like that. And then the remainder was, I don't remember. I think it was for operations of
yeah.
that once it's going.
I'll go first. I would be interested in funding, and I'm looking for my notes right now on the operation of like the we go to you services. I would be interested in funding that. I'm not interested in refunding them for that building, especially where they're planning on using that and charging rent to other agencies. They're hoping to recoup costs in that building. At the end of the day, I do support the use of that money to go out and use those services, but I don't want to support the building.
I'm the opposite. I think that the building cost or the permits, I would be okay there. But allocating those funds, I'm kind of hesitant there.
Okay. Okay,
45 does seem like a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not saying give nothing, but 45 does seem like a lot.
would you be more in favor of reimbursing the cost of the permits or looking at
what was
the
that cost?
operation?
They
of
both
the-
were pretty comparable. So I guess at the end of the day, whichever way you cut it, like they're gonna like they'll move that money around either
However
way,
they would
right?
like. I guess the question is 45, or do you go to 40? Do you go to 20? Do you go to?
I think they were pretty evenly. I think it was like 20 and 25. So I'd be in favor of half, 22.5.
Yes.
So before I can answer that or any of these other questions, I'm having trouble with the arithmetic here. So we've got a budget amount of $169,000, up from $119,000. That's $50,000. So where's the 50,000? Because if we add in Valley Mission at 45 and Museum at 50, I mean, we're just automatically way over 50.
We're 100 there.
So where's the 50 that's built into the
The
budget?
one, you're saying between year over year?
Well, yeah, you've got 100, year over year from 20. You said you've built
So,
the difference between the 169 and the 119. That's $50,000. That's what we have built into it, right?
that's the increase.
So where does
That's the
that,
increase.
that's the increase. Where does that come from, those increases? In which of those specific
So,
line items?
so while I was building the budget, I just set aside in the non-departmental, because that's where we have funded this, and said, okay, we've done 119 and discussions that I've had with the mayor and things like that. We just decided to go ahead and increase the budget to cover that. There's no.
By $50,000.
Yeah, by
So to
50,000.
the extent here today that we approve tentatively anything that exceeds 50,000, you have to increase your budget. Is that right?
Correct. Anything that's over the 169,
Anything over the 169?
69.
Right, okay.
So that 169, did you include the 50,000 for the Museum of Clean?
I did not include anything specifically. I just.
Okay, so I talked with him yesterday. The feel I had from the council was the ask from the Museum of Clean was too far of a reach and was very unclear. And so I didn't have anybody saying, yeah, we should fund that.
In my heart,
And
no.
so I told him not to include that, and I think that's where your math is a little bit off from the 169. If you add up all those numbers,
Add
it's
50.
248, and he's got budgeted 169, and I think he's pulled that 50 out.
Well, you've increased by $50,000, right?
So let me try it. I apologize. We're doing stuff late last night, but so the total requests, right? So starting on the left-hand side, the 121 is what we got last year, which we funded. This year, total requests were 248.
Okay,
Can you see that? And the difference is 131. Budgeted, what we have was budgeted in fiscal year 24 was 119. And then what we budgeted this year was 169
right.
with a $50,000 year-over-year increase. With the changes we have right now, it's 128, which leaves 41,000 that we can either let go, put it somewhere else, or we can allocate it to one of these three.
So,
Go ahead.
so the last year participation, the 248, you've been doing a running total as we've checked these off here? Or the
So-
128 there,
So last year, again, the request was 121,
right?
right? That's the total request. What we budgeted was 119. I can't tell you which one did not get the rest of
So
the
we
funding.
did not budget for the neighbor works last year.
Got it, okay.
So can we go back to our
So,
list?
so I just want to be clear, Museum of Clean is out.
Gone.
Yes.
Gone,
Yes.
okay, so let's remove Museum of Clean.
Okay,
Valley Mission, the request is 45. I've heard split it in half to 22.5. And they can do with it what they would like if they want to be reimbursed for the fees, they can. If they want to just put this to operation, they can, but it's something that I've heard is a good thing and necessary in our community, and that we should support that, but at what level?
Yeah.
I've got a number of 22.5.
I'm okay with that.
Got another one okay with that. I've got one that, what were you, Brent?
I think it, and for the initial year, should even be lower than that. That'll put them as one of the highest
Yeah.
people on the list, and they're sort of a newcomer,
Okay,
so.
I'd be fine going lower.
What did you say?
Lower than the 22.5 even. I mean, again, that would still put them at the top of the dollar value for
What are
the
you thinking, 20 or less?
$15,000-$20,000 for this year, and then next year maybe.
Here's the one thing I will say. Aid for Friends is another homeless shelter that offers very similar services, and we're only giving them $8,000.
well, from the request here, we're also giving them the $50,000 from CDBG, and we've given.
Right. Of
Giving
course.
them the 350,000 to
And-
get that built and going.
And they do have,
so-
yes, and that's
They've received
correct. And they have
huge
access to grant funds
Yeah.
that are different, and that's, yes,
And
I
so-
understand that.
And Rick, I've seen Rick nodding his head over there, so he's being quiet, but
There's an angle to Valley Mission that I'm not sure it's appropriate to city fund. And I'm not sure that this is the time and place to ask for city funds. I would go 0.
okay. I've got a 22.5, I got somewhere less, 15, and I've got a 0. And
Wait, Rick, can you please explain more? Like, what are you saying the city shouldn't?
There's a religious component to what they
Oh,
do.
okay. Sure. I do agree with Rick in that situation.
I'm fine with that.
I struggle with that too, actually.
okay,
I like what Carl's doing. I'm just not sure this is where the funding should come from.
okay. I mean, I'll weigh in on it. I agree with what they're doing, and I think it's a good thing. I don't think that the religious end of it is their main focus. I think their main focus is reintroduction into the community, and so it does have a religious focus and lean to it. But I think it's would be appropriate. But there again, I've said a million times the council will make the right decision, and so.
I agree with what you just said, Mayor, and it's separate from the church itself. So I think that it gives it a whole different, but it does have a religious backing to it. But at the same time, the mission is people, and the people are part of the city. And so if we can do anything to benefit or to help the people, I think that that's our obligation. But I do agree with the religious component. I agree with that 100%. But from what they're doing as a mission base, I think that it's appropriate for us to do something. And that's why I lean more towards the building fees versus the flat dollar deal. So
Linda?
Is there a way, because I know that they have tried to sort of keep things separate, and make this about the services, helping homeless people, that kind of thing, and keep that separate from the church and the religious part of it. Is there a way to stipulate that with the money? I hate to make it 0 because they're doing important work in this community. That is, as Corey said, about helping people, and I value that work. But I struggle with money to religious organizations. So is there a way to make a stipulation that those need to be kept completely separate?
I'm sure there is somehow. Brent?
I see Matt back there squirming around. Are we under any of the legal considerations here about the city donating money to an organization that perhaps might have a legal constraint?
Matt, come on up to the table if you're going to respond to that. And if you're not going to respond to it, we need another attorney in here that will.
Matt Herbst, Deputy City Attorney. I would say if the religious component is not a condition of receiving the services they're saying, I don't have the concerns with that. And yes, you can build that into any sort of donation, that the condition of this is that it not be associated with anything with regards to any religious component that may be related. So yeah, as far as donating there, if it's not a condition to the service they receive, that religious component, we're fine.
And Matt, by a condition of the service, you mean, say, the organization saying you have to attend this service in order to get a bed for the night?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. That sort of condition that would force somebody into some sort of religious worship or.
What about, when the woman who was part of the presentation was talking about going out and talking to people and sort of helping them where they're at and everything. What if she is sort of proselytizing to that person? How does that?
Yeah, we don't want to fund their proselyte.
Right.
That is correct. So you'd want to make sure that the donation isn't going for that particular
Be a
purpose.
matter of a discussion on making sure that it isn't, that they're not doing that. I didn't get the feeling that they were. I got the
didn't-
feeling that
I
they
didn't
were
either.
visiting with them and getting them the food and the things that they need. I will say this about Valley Mission is the last 3, I'm looking at Ann, 4 years maybe, we've had meetings on warming shelters and also cooling shelters for summertime. And Valley Mission, that's one of the reasons they have taken this on, because they could not get all of the beds opened up at Aid for Friends. They could not get help in other places, and so they spent between Aid for Valley Mission and Salvation Army and the church right behind Pokie High School. Forget the name of that. The Universe.
Is that Pastor Stars?
Pastor Stars Church. The 3 of them really have stepped up. They've funded upwards of, over the last 3 years, my guess would be $150,000, $200,000 to get people into rooms at night when it's cold, when the temperatures drop below 20 degrees. They were paying for hotels. We've done a little support there to help people get out of the cold and into the warm, so we don't have people freezing to death. The summertime, they're doing the same thing, and so they are working to do that, and none of that has ever been a contingent if they attend any church services or anything. That it was just been get them out of the cold and into a warm bed so that they can have somewhere to stay. Rick?
Well, and I agree with what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, but items 2 through 8 are non-denominational. And those services that you were just discussing aren't here asking for city tax money to run on either. My concern with item 9 is we've opened the crack in the door for that sort of request each year, like we have on item number 11 with last year. And I think that was a mistake that is only going to tax our budget even further in the future. And I don't think we want to start there.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about, because I got an opinion on 11 too, but I'm focused on 9. So where are we at on 9? Rick's a 0. Linda?
I think I'm going to have to go with Rick. I'm,
With a 0?
what you just said about opening the door,
Okay,
that concerns me.
okay. Brent?
Yeah, 0.
A 0?
0.
0.
I disagree. I disagree with opening the door because it's a separate entity from the church itself, and the work that they're doing speaks for itself. If it was their church specifically asking for the funds, I would completely agree with you. But it's a mission that's been doing the work in the community for a while now. and it's separate from the church. So I say if we were to fund it, give them a portion of it or do the permits and fees. But I'm outnumbered, so I imagine we're at 0. But
With the
yeah.
majority.
Okay, so take that out. Museum of Clean's been taken out, Never Works.
way to go, man.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I know your feelings, but I'll also be the first one to jump in here. I'm going to disagree with Rick. I have watched the college neighborhood work and take donations and take their activity, and while they are designed for the neighborhood, it is amazing the kind of community that those neighborhoods foster and develop, and the way that they create community activities and events and participation among people that I think are the very things that, the same reason that we host parades, the same reason that all these other events that we try and do to foster community, these neighborhoods do it even closer among neighbors. I just have been more and more impressed as time goes on, and I, for the past year after going to the Christmas party, regretted opposing funding that project, and I'm greatly in favor of giving this request to all the neighborhoods.
Okay.
You opposed the event and went anyway.
I helped. I volunteered. I boiled all the water for the hot chocolate and ran it back and forth.
He volunteered.
No, I'm just kidding. I agree with everything Josh just said. And just looking at Neighbor Works, they really push for community engagement. They really push for, and it's not just one neighborhood versus another neighborhood, but all of the community comes to these neighborhoods events. And I think that it's great, and it fosters community, community support, community relationships. And what we can't do here at City Hall, they're able to do out there in their neighborhoods. And so I think we leave it in there.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't remember what specifically did they say they wanted to do with the money?
So what they will do with the money, this would go to Neighbor Works, and Neighbor Works would split it out equally among all the active neighborhood associations and for them to do something in their community.
And like Caldwell Park does the Christmas party, Bonneville does the Triangle Neighborhood
Triangle,
Celebration.
The others have not been as active. They've done a number of things, but they've been on a smaller scale, and they've only included the neighbors right in that area and instead of opening it up.
It's
There
based on
is-
5,000 for,
There is one neighborhood that is not functioning right now, and that is not in this request.
so we have 6 that have associations, but one's kind of
Yes.
inactive, so it's 5,000 for 5
For
neighborhoods.
5 neighborhoods, yes. So you're deep in thought. Am I
It
waiting for
just seems
something?
like a lot
I could see
to
us
throw.
increasing it.
I don't mean this negatively, but it seems like a lot to throw a party.
Sure.
I don't know.
Well, that's what Rick's thing is it's a lot to throw a party and stuff and,
May I jump in?
yeah, absolutely.
So we had $2,000 last year, and that went to one neighborhood, right?
It didn't go because we did not fund it.
Oh, okay, it was proposed at 2,000, but it was
So-
for one neighborhood.
So last year, we did not fund it for FY '24's budget.
Oh, right, okay.
I found $2,000 that I gave them out of the mayor's budget
But it was
to
one
help with
neighborhood.
that, but it was the
One
one
neighborhood.
neighborhood.
College.
But we did not fund it here. I worked to find it in
Okay.
in another area, and that was for last year's.
Right.
This year, there's no money for them for this December's
Right,
budget, and they're aware that this money will be for '25.
right. But now we're looking at 5,000 for 5 neighborhoods.
Yes.
Is that right? I mean, I support the camaraderie that would build. $5,000 for 5 neighborhoods is a lot of money, perhaps 2,000 for 5 neighborhoods, 2,000 each at $10,000. Still gives everybody some help to,
Okay, we got Mr. Negotiator here going. He's negotiating away. Let's go to Linda, see what Linda.
I am absolutely in favor of this. I fought hard for it last year. I still believe it's the right thing to do. I think it's really kind of diminishing the idea to say that it's $5,000 for a party. I think it's a lot more than that. This is about building community. which is really what I think we should be supporting. When we had the presentation from NeighborWorks, we heard about how this helps individual neighborhoods build the community within them, but also how it brings the entire community together. The college neighborhood event has been hugely successful, that Christmas event with the hot chocolate and everything, but it isn't just for the college neighborhood. People from the entire community come to that. I think these events are important, and I just believe in the idea of us supporting building community. So we could negotiate the amount. I believe in the concept completely. I don't want to go so low that it becomes, fairly meaningless. I mean, if it's too little for them to really do anything, I don't think it serves the purpose. So I'm okay with it being at 25. If it went down a little bit, I would be okay with that as well, but I really don't want us to not do this. We've talked about it for, I think, 2 or 3 years now, and this is, I think, the third discussion on this concept, and each time it's failed, but each time I'm going to fight for it because I believe in the purpose of it. And I think this is very much in keeping with us and our mission and what we do. When we're talking about building community, that is really what we should be supporting as a council, I believe, so.
Okay, Rick?
My general opposition to this is if we had each neighborhood come to us with a project and how they're going to spend that money and what they're going to do and what they hope to accomplish, I'd be very much in favor. I am against giving NeighborWorks $25,000 and let them deciding how taxpayer money is going to be spent. I don't think that's appropriate. That's this group's job to figure out where the money's going to go. And all we saw was the college neighborhood's proposal. Where the rest of the money's going to go, who's going to get to spend it, what projects on, what's going to be accomplished, who's going to decide that? Certainly not this council, and I think this council has that responsibility. If they come back and make a specific proposal, I might be in favor of this, but not writing a blank check to NeighborWorks to distribute however they want.
So I guess my question is, if we have them do that, explain to the council what we do. We set this 25,000 or whatever we end up with, because I agree, it's more than a party. And I think it does build the community, and I think it does help. But if we have them come, put a plan together of what that looks like before you write the check to NeighborWorks, is that what we're doing? But I think it puts us in an awkward position too by saying, well, you know what, we don't like hot dogs, but we do like hamburgers. And so no and yes, you know what I mean? And that's simplified, but
That's why I said might.
yeah.
But we also didn't just hear about one event, the Bonneville neighborhood.
Bonneville neighborhood,
What's it called, their
the
event?
triangle event that they.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the name of the event, but that's a big one that's growing every year.
And this last year was not put together by the Bonneville neighborhood. It was put together by United Senior Project. That's who actually put that thing
But
together.
Bonneville neighborhood was absolutely part of it.
They participated, but the coordination of the event was the United Senior Project. That was a fundraiser primarily for the building they're trying to build over there.
I went to the organization meetings and it was Bonneville
The
neighborhood.
only people I ever spoke to about that was the Bonneville neighborhood.
They're the ones who did the
Association.
T-shirts, everything.
Yeah.
So I just, if we fund this with the anticipation that those groups might come to us with a presentation, where would we put that money in the interim?
We would just have it in the, where?
Non-departmental.
Non-departmental.
Yeah, just leave it non-departmental until they met whatever requirements council has.
And then they would come, present, and then at a budget, like at a normal council meeting, and
We'd approve
we'd approve.
or not.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what the council wanted to do, yeah, I think that puts a big workload on you as a council, and I think it gives you the opportunity to be put in a tough situation if you disagree with the way they want to do it, that I think it does do something like that, but I would support that too. I think that that's not a wrong request to have them come and explain what they're doing with the money before we cut the check to NeighborWorks.
I don't mind hearing what they plan to do with it. I mean, that's not a bad thing. I personally, I don't need that. I mean, I think that could open the door to us sort of saying which projects we think are worthy and which aren't. But if that's the only way to make this happen, then I would go along with it, absolutely.
My understanding, though, is that NeighborWorks isn't the one who's at the end. I mean, the money would probably might be given to NeighborWorks that is then distributed to the associations that have boards and presidents and vote and take minutes, and that to me is enough oversight in those associations. I would be interested in receiving a written report prior to next year as to what those funds were used for and what projects they used. Or even a report this year of what their intention, each neighborhood, require each board before these funds are dispersed, when the budget is approved in August and September, require them to give us a written proposal from each of the boards of what their intention is to use that money for, and then give written reports of how it was spent. And that would be sufficient for me. I wouldn't need them to come back and give additional approvals.
I'm good with that too.
And I would like to support, I would personally still like to keep the 5,000 per neighborhood.
Okay. I've got two to keep the dollar amount and I'm not sure what kind of, if you want to report or if you want them to come and talk about it beforehand, but I've got a proposal for each of those.
I'm going to agree with Brent, and let's take it down to, let's say, 2,000 per neighborhood, which takes it to 10,000 total. I don't mind 5,000 per neighborhood, but I'd like, and I imagine they do, but I'd like to see them have some skin in the game for whatever events that they're going to put together. Which, like I said, I imagine they do, right? And they probably have I know they have volunteers and everything else, but 5,000 is quite a bit. And I don't know if they have multiple events going on per neighborhood, just one event going on. But if it's one event and it's 5,000 for one event, that's quite a bit of money. But I'd say let's take it down to 2,000. We gave 2,000, or you gave 2,000 last year.
Well, we did.
We gave 2,000.
I found it in our budget.
Yeah, we gave 2,000 last year, so let's do 2,000 this year per neighborhood, taking it up to 10,000.
Okay, I've got two for 10,000. I've got one to stay the same. I've got one to go to zero, and I've got two to stay the same, actually. And then the report, I'm still unclear on, so.
Just one additional comment.
Yes.
Just to the point of skin in the game, they do. They're already paying for all
Right.
of what they do. So, I know that it's important to have skin in the game, but they definitely do. We're talking about helping them additionally.
Correct.
Above and beyond what they're already doing. So, I think that that's important to note.
I would personally like to see neighborhoods do more than one event.
Me too. This could go well beyond one
pull it-
event.
To pull it in, but,
I know I can only speak to College Neighborhood. It's where I live. College
do.
Neighborhood does their summer barbecue. They do where they have live music. They do the Christmas party where they get a horse-drawn sleigh to tour the neighborhood to look at the Christmas lights, as well as the refreshments and a live band. And then they do a newsletter as well as the tour of homes in the College Neighborhood.
And to clean up,
So-
there's a few more things
Yeah.
as well.
Okay, so we've talked about the college neighborhood, which is super overactive, right? But then we have these other neighborhoods that aren't as active. So we're going to give everybody $5,000, but college neighborhood sounds like they deserve like maybe 10, right? But we're going to give everybody 5. Like that doesn't work out. And
It's
so
the
I think I get they're the model. However, though, they're the most active. So we're going to go give 5,000 to some that are less active, with the hopes that they're going to put together some project, but they haven't shown that they're putting together or doing any projects. Now, if they were as active as these other neighborhoods, fine, right? However, they're not as active as this one neighborhood. So now we're at it just looks weird in my mind, right? That's why I think lower it to 2,000 and then you can pick up the rest.
Jump in?
Yeah.
And then perhaps before next year, get a more specific report from each neighborhood on what they want, how they're gonna use it, and sort of justify it. And then maybe we kick that up on an individual neighborhood basis.
I agree.
Well, we know what the college neighborhood does,
Right.
and that's not my neighborhood, but we know what they
Bonneville
do.
does.
And we know what Bonneville does, and that's not my neighborhood, but we know what they do. I know what the Alameda neighborhood does, and it's basically because of funds. And they do one event, that's a small event because there's just not the funds available. But they're active, and they do some things. The Lewis and Clark neighborhood has been active in the past, but when there's not a resource for people to do something, everything kind of dwindles back down a little bit. And so I honestly think this is the best $25,000 the city can spend. I think it brings the community together. I think if you look at what's happening throughout the country and the world right now, we need to do this. They can use it for cleanup. They can use it for parties. They can use it for signage. They can use it for a number of things out there. The funds aren't available right now for them. And so you don't have that community coming together like you do in a couple of these other areas that have done some things. I know the Triangle neighborhood, they work tirelessly to get donations for that. They are successful in getting some donations, but they can expand that, which is beneficial. Every year, they always end up spending money out of their own pockets, the organizers, even more so than what they've already spent. And so I am a firm believer in this. And if it's $10,000 as we cut it down to 2,000, I think I'm a firm believer, regardless of what it is, I would like to see something in this. It does build neighborhoods, and hopefully it shows other neighborhoods that don't have the associations to get an association, because it builds neighborhoods, which builds good cities. As I look at our mission statement and our values that we have, that we worked on years ago, this falls right in line with every one of them. And so that's why I'm passionate about this.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate your passion. I wonder if this category shouldn't be relabeled. Instead of Neighbor Works, which concentrates on LMI neighborhoods throughout our community, if perhaps that shouldn't be a check written to each individual identified neighborhood as they come forward, because there are many neighborhoods that are not represented in the 6 LMI neighborhoods that NeighborWorks represents.
But I agree with that. Yeah. Brett and then Linda.
Yeah, I had asked that specific question when they proposed. I think we're giving it to NeighborWorks because they're an actual registered entity as opposed to a non-amorphous type of association that has no legal structure, I think was what.
But we're limiting who's going to use it. If we're limiting it to those, so if next year others come back who are not part of the NeighborWorks program, are we eliminating them?
I thought the
I don't
idea,
think we can eliminate them if you did that.
I thought the idea was to start with the ones that were active, which was why we're going with the 5 and
Opposed
not
to 6.
6. But the idea is to encourage any other neighborhoods that don't have an association to get one and to get active and to build this program. My understanding of NeighborWorks is they are the coordinator, the facilitator. They're an entity that can receive funds when many of these neighborhoods can't. So they're just sort of the pass-through and the coordinator and helping those neighborhoods kind of figure out what to do and encouraging it and everything. But I don't think is meant to cut out any other neighborhoods in the future. It's meant to encourage them to organize.
What I would hope would not happen would be we tie it to NeighborWorks where other neighborhoods don't think that they are able to
Right.
get the money. I think Rick brings up a very good point there. You know, if another neighborhood comes in, but they're not registered with NeighborWorks or they're not in the LMI, they feel like, well, we can't get that. And I think that defeats the purpose of what we're doing. So I
Right.
think that.
But I don't think that that's the intention, as far as I understand.
Well, I don't
is
think
not
that's
to
the
cut them
intention,
out.
but labels matter.
Right.
And so maybe
Neighborhood contribution.
I don't know. Maybe NeighborWorks makes sense, and that's probably why they came together, because it makes sense. But
Can
some-
this be put into the, again, like we were talking about before, you put stipulations when you give the money that this is not just money to NeighborWorks to do with whatever they want, that it has very specific,
That would be definitely a condition, and NeighborWorks recognizes that. But they also recognize we've got 6 neighborhoods associations formed right now, only 5 of them are active. And so they recognize that this is for 5, this would be available for 5, not 6 neighborhoods
year.
right now, this year.
So all of those neighborhood associations report back to NeighborWorks, Pocatello. And they let them know what they're doing and how they're doing it. And it's not that they just get willy-nilly just get this money thrown at them. So I do know that.
How does a neighborhood that doesn't have, say, the Alameda neighborhood does not have a thing right now, an association, and they don't feel like they can go and talk to NeighborWorks about any of this, how do they get access to this?
I know they have representation at.
Well, say they don't.
Pick a different
So I
one.
see what you're
So
saying.
pick a
Yeah.
different, pick the neighborhood.
South Bannock.
South Bannock.
Now
South
that-
Bannock neighborhood.
Now that I'm not 100% sure.
How do they know they can come get it? Because we do have a number of neighborhoods that
True.
do not have an association formed. How would they know that this is available?
That I don't know.
In future years, I would be interested if we want to reclassify this as neighborhood contributions. We had representatives from each of those neighborhoods that are applying under this NeighborWorks banner. But for future years, if we were to create an application that requires an establishment of a board that has a president and, full board officers that were voted in with a plan of how they intend on, spending that money and what community activities it would go to, and then they turn in a report that shows how it was used, I wouldn't require them to be a NeighborWorks associated neighborhood.
No, I think that's why.
So for future years, I
Sure.
think that'd be completely appropriate.
Just a minute. Brad?
Yes, I mean, our discussions don't seem to be limited to LMI. For example, a college market, college neighborhood, that's not LMI, is it?
Yeah.
Christine? The college neighborhood LMI, you can go yes or no?
Well, the news, HUD census data just came out, so that one actually did just become an LA, low moderate area.
Okay. So by definition, it is now.
I know I am.
Gene, you had something that,
What would happen if we had some organization and we had somebody, a staff member, not voluntary, but someone that actually represented the city that was on the board so that we could make sure that those funds were allocated appropriately?
we have a liaison
At NeighborWorks.
that is at NeighborWorks now that gets those reports now,
Okay.
so.
If we do something similar to what we do with the Arts Council, we have an advisory board and they get a little bit of money, and the advisory board that reports to the city is the one that.
Well, that advisory board money's running out quickly. It was
For the Arts
established
Council.
and, yeah,
I
it
was
was
just
the Arts
talking about
Council.
general structure, not
And-
necessarily. nothing
I mean, we could figure it out. I think we're chasing rabbits right now. We can figure
I think that's
anything
future
out.
year
The-
consideration. expanding.
At this point right now, the question is to move the meeting on forward a little bit. Number one, if we're in favor of doing something here, regardless of what that dollar number is, are we in favor of doing that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I've got yeses, I've got enough yeses to move forward. Number two, then, what would be our dollar amount? And then we can figure some of this other stuff out
Mr. Mayor.
as we move forward. I got 2,000 per neighborhood over here on the corner.
I'm gonna change my opinion and let's take it to half and do 2,500, meet right in the middle.
2,500, I got 2,000, I got 2,500, we got 5,000. 5,000. We got 5,500, 6,000, 6,500.
Come on, do your
Sold. So I've got a couple at 5, I've got one at 25, and I've got one at 2,000 right now. So Brent, I don't know from you, and Hayden, I'm unclear. Oh, you're at 2, I got 2 at 2, 2 at 5, and now, serious, 2 at 25?
I think it should be lower.
All right, I'd meet at 25,
So I'll meet at 25.
2,500.
25.
So I got
If these two are at
3 at
2,500,
25, 1 at 5, and 2 at 2,000.
I'm staying at 5.
We got a 5. We got 2,000. You guys okay? Well, I've got 3 of you right now at 25.
So that
And I can weigh in right now, but I'm gonna let you do it if I can get it done in the next 30
What
seconds.
about 3?
What about 3? If I got a 3,
I'm at a
3,200.
firm 25.
I'm fine with 25 for this year
25.
until we
Well, I got
establish
3
this
solid
more expanded
25s.
process.
You're down.
2,000 solid. Rick?
I'd like to go back to 0, but that isn't gonna happen.
It doesn't sound like that's gonna happen. He's
I'd
a
go
solid.
25.
Rick would go to 25. Okay, put 25 in there. I got 4 25s.
So what's the total?
25.
12.
It'd be 12.5.
Your increase column isn't changing.
Yeah, your increase column didn't change there.
Well, if I,
And I'll just throw a big thank you to the council for funding some of this. I think I really think we see a difference and see where it makes the value. Did that change?
that should be it.
Gene, it's column D
Column
is
D
not
is the
adjusting
one that's not
the
adjusting.
differences.
Gotcha.
So like Valley Mission got moved to 0, so like that should be 0, and yeah.
He just really like to make my life. Just 'cause I can't see, you know?
And, yeah.
Museum of Clean. Yeah.
Actually got it backwards.
Math.
You did it backwards.
I did. Come on, guys.
He did it backwards. It's all
And
right.
wouldn't that be cool?
What?
Remove by giving more money, we
get
decrease
less?
the
We
decrease,
differences.
that's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what the Federal Reserve does. I didn't say that. What? Come on. I have to have Bonnie do it here in just a minute. Go ahead. The keyboard's just a little bit, so. Anyway, I would really like to thank everybody for your help on getting this done.
So we've,
We'll take care of it. The keyboard is just completely different from what we normally use, and it's just kind of challenge. There you go. And that's a pain. There we go.
Hey.
Should just let Bonnie run it. Okay,
okay.
everybody good?
So what are we at total then?
140.
140 out of, and we had put 169?
Yeah, so
Okay.
there's still, hang on.
$28?
28.5.
Yeah. That's it, 128. Come on. That's the participation so far.
Shouldn't it be the 169 minus
Oh, I just need
140?
to, no, I just need to
Yeah,
get my formulas working here.
28.5?
Go down.
Okay, yeah.
I like how we're all throwing numbers out there. I'll throw us a couple numbers if I
There you
need
go.
to, too.
140,
Yeah.
this is, anyway, 28.5 is what we got left. If you,
I'd,
we would,
I'd like to see the rest of the budget before we do
Yeah.
anything with that
Yeah.
leftover money.
For sure.
anybody
That
need a
just helps the rest of the budget.
Right,
And-
exactly. Yeah, before we go back and say,
Council, before we move on, do we want to break for a minute before we continue on down this road?
Yep.
Yes, please.
Okay, we're going to take a break for a few minutes, and we'll be back. Let's try to make it 5 minutes, 10:35, but we'll go ahead and continue on with agenda item 4. And Jean?
Absolutely. Can I just address one more quick thing before we jump into it? I just want to, as we go through this, the executive team got together and we prioritized as a team a lot of the things that if there's any excess money, we'll cover that, but I just wanted to state that up front. And then, so this line, when you look at line 5, right? This covers the entire general fund. We come in at 44.5 million.
Mr. Mayor,
Just a minute.
just one
Yes.
second. Is there any way we can get these printed?
Can we get these printed off?
Really hard to see up there.
Yes. Take me a minute.
Let's get them printed off then. We'll take another break until we get them printed.
I'm sorry. I just can't see.
No, I apologize. It's all right. If I
Can you
blow
make
it
that
up,
larger?
I can blow it up a little bit. Yes.
Now we're bouncing back and forth if we
Yeah.
do that.
Is that too big? Bonnie's gonna go print some.
Thank you.
If we, can we move ahead while she's printing these? Is that what this size print?
Okay.
Does that work? Okay. So, again, total revenues, including the tax ask and the expenditures, including 3%, one over the 3%, gives us a balance of 156,000. So if you keep that in mind, any questions?
Say that again, what the
Brent?
1 over 3%?
So there's one item that, we put
Oh,
a
got it.
3%. There's one item that council had approved earlier, kind of put in, that I built in, and that was for the animal shelter to fund the outsourced veterinary. I can get this, of 110. And that's the only one that's included in there.
Okay, okay.
So just to clarify, and if you could go back to that, yeah, we're over
Right. We have
156.9.
156,000 over what we're on the general fund, but there are some other places
Where we can make that.
where we may
right.
have to adjust this. So I think we're going to be really close.
Okay.
Okay?
I was gonna say that's small.
So we're not in the red at all
No,
with the general fund.
not at all.
Okay.
And we may want to leave that too, because there is, Heather was saying, we're still a little fluid on the fire and ambulance. I think we've already got it to max, but we may need a little bit.
So with that 156, what is not included in that 156 is the $40,000 that we still have remaining that was budgeted from the.
Correct.
So that 156 goes to 200.
40 for what?
The nonprofit stuff that
Oh.
he had built into the
Right.
budget,
The
the decrease that
Oh,
we
the decrease,
decreased
right.
out of there. So there's 40,000.
Let me just add it.
ish.
so 41, I think it was.
Yeah.
So we'd be down.
So then, so right here with the 156, you would have 199-ish, 200,000,
197.
197. Dang it.
Gene,
But didn't
can you
we
explain why,
change that number
why
to
did we
41?
add that to revenue as opposed to pulling it out of non-departmental? just for spreadsheet purposes?
You're probably right. I could take it, yeah. Just for simplification.
Okay,
I could-
that's fine then.
I could certainly
That was
do it the other way if that's your preference.
that was the increase if we approved them all. But we took
So-
it down to 28.5.
So, yeah, it's not 41, it was 28.5.
28.5.
It was 28.5, that's right.
Okay.
And that's additional, so that should bring us down.
That will
No,
bring
no,
us.
the 158 is how much extra we have. That's
Right.
excess revenue, yeah.
So we add
that
28
158
to it.
now goes up to 178.
Oh, that's what I was trying to ask earlier. Is that
It's an overage.
it's an
revenue.
overage in revenue?
overage
in
Okay,
revenue.
so I thought we were over, as in, that was not a good thing.
So 180.
So 184.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Questions, council? Before we move on in this?
And those numbers include the best projection from HR as far as benefits and salaries so far.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, not to repeat it, but just so we do it. Step, for everyone, one step, plus 1.5%, 14.7, so the top, the Blue Cross, on the medical, and then 6% on the dental.
So if we did go with Select Health, we would be
That number would increase.
that,
But
yeah.
but I think that also
Good.
some of those benefits come out of enterprise
you.
funds, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that number doesn't increase by the flat amount.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a flat amount because some of them
Because-
are an enterprise thing.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
all the other personnel funds.
Right.
Right. All the personnel funds, some of
It's
which are
more
enterprise, some are
complicated,
general.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions on this part here? Because we'll be back up here probably in a minute as we go through some of this. Okay, let's move through.
So the next one is the liability insurance, which, came in at about a 250,000 increase over last year. So we have funded this partially by the property tax ask, and then also by interfund. Questions here?
So that includes our ICRIMP increase?
That's what it is, yes. That includes the administration of it, the ICRIMP, and covers some personnel, basically, and beyond that. Street, as you might recall, okay to move on to street?
Yep.
So street, as you recall, they had a deficit, from losing the HB 52 or whatever it was, of about 1.4 million. Been working with Tom. We were able to reduce, he was able to reduce his expenditures by 1.8, so this balances. There is one request I would like to put in here, and Tom, if he wants to come up, certainly welcome to do that, is there's additional, he's got about $4 million in excess reserves. We wanted to request that 500,000 for capital equipment, because the capital equipment is aging, and also some additional paving for 500,000, so we wanted to put that in there. But just, I'll let Tom, if there's any
So are
questions.
you talking about burning $1 million of your excess reserve for equipment and pavement?
Mr. Mayor, in your budget presentation, because we were talking about the hit that you took, but I think we were interested in using some of the reserves to sort of offset that hit. This is what we're talking about here. It was down about $1 million, and now we're talking about investing $1 million to bringing it back up to where you were originally proposing. Is that
Close, yeah.
Correct.
Tom Kirkman, Director of Public Services. So there was some one-time monies over the last 2 years that came in. And so the way we structured the fund was we were using those one-time monies for capital to get equipment and to bolster the paving program. When those monies went away, that's why we kind of set that up so that we could pull that easily away if we needed. So what that leaves us with is our paving budget would go down to $1 million as opposed to $2 million. And then our capital, we had about 1.3 million in capital, and that would take that down to about 500. For instance, our last snow plow was about $350,000. Pretty much everything's about 350 to 400 right now. And so we were hoping to take some one-time monies out of reserves so that we could potentially get 2 larger pieces of equipment and maybe a smaller piece of equipment. So take that 500 out of excess. And then every penny that we can throw towards pavement management is just an investment in our future because, you know, the more we can get done, it saves us down the road.
Yeah, okay, hold on, I've got, okay, you've got the answer, so Rick.
So where would that leave your reserves?
3.5, something like that.
And that's the
That's excess.
25%?
That's excess
That's
reserve.
excess on top of the 25%.
3.5 in excess?
Yes.
So what is your reserve?
I think we're around 6
And that's
and a half.
25%?
Our 25%, yeah, is on top of that 4 million.
So it's 4 million. If we take $1 million out, he'll have excess reserves of 3 million, and it's 2.5, right? I think is what the reserve is. We could give an exact on that.
Yeah, so we're not touching the 25% off, required reserve.
This makes sense to me. You've got some excess reserves. It makes sense to add that in.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm seeing yes.
Okay, and we'll by Thursday, we'll add these numbers in as we make the corrections. We'll add them back in for final
Okay.
approval.
So that is not in here now.
No, that's an additional
It'll
ask.
be an additional ask. On top of the 8.8 or the 9 million, we'll add $1 million in capital acquisitions.
But you'll properly delineate that it's coming out of reserves.
Out of
Thank you.
excess, yes. When I was talking about, how the executive staff had come together and focused on priorities, part of that was, as citizens, have asked for the pickleball court, the water slide, getting stuff fixed. We also wanted to include in this, and again, these are one-time money out of reserve, recreation. So there's a bunch of these things, and if Ann wants to come up and talk about it, but it basically, leaves us with, she'll have an excess of 22,000 after we get these parks up, the deferred maintenance and things that have been put off. So we really wanted to clean those up. So
So is the ask to add 253?
the ask is in addition to the 3.6, which was her budget, to add the 2.9, or excuse me, 294,000 in addition to that, use her reserves to get the parks up. And she could name the specific parks, but, we've taken some of the ARPA funds, which you guys are familiar with, and cleaned up a lot of this stuff. But we just really wanted to focus, speaking, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, but speaking as an executive staff, we really wanted to get the parks and the deferred maintenance caught up and really focus on 1 or 2 areas, not all over.
Mr. Mayor?
And council, as you know, we have a big list of deferred maintenance and a big list of things that are needed, and the city or the executive staff does meet on a regular basis. And these recommendations are coming really truly from that executive staff of saying these are most important, and it's amazing to sit in a room and have people say, put that in front of my project because it's more important for the community. It's amazing that you've got an incredible executive staff that works very well together. And so that's why Gene keeps bringing up the executive staff is we've met, we do this, and this is a recommendation that we put any monies that we can towards that. So Linda?
And I really appreciate that our staff, our executive staff do that and just reach those decisions together and decide what the priorities are. My question about this money, just to be totally clear that I understand, because I also am 100% in favor of addressing these deferred maintenance issues. And we've seen in our comp plan and all the surveys that we put out how important the Parks and Rec department is, and those opportunities, those activities, how important that is to our community. So I support that. But I just want to be clear, this money that we're talking about, the 290, whatever it was, yeah, that one is additional to the ARPA money that we agreed
Yes.
to. Okay.
Yes, these are one-time
deals for deferred
One
maintenance.
time
that
for
we're taking
deferred
out of
ma-
We're gonna take out of reserves, excess reserves that will leave her a balance of 22 in excess reserves over and above the 25%.
So the 22 is over and above the 25%,
and-
and this is coming out of excess reserves?
So
Okay.
that 22 point right there, so.
And I believe that is a necessary and a good use of those funds.
Okay, Rick,
The 1.459366 other income comes from where?
And, no, fees, it's, you know, it's
Fees,
fees. at
those
the
fees and
park.
grants?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't leave me hanging here, man.
You're doing great.
And that's an estimate of what you think will come in next year.
Yes.
Correct.
And if we're short,
We've been conservative, we won't be short. How's
like the
that?
confidence, but I agree with
I
you.
think we're there. We've made an adjustment, a good adjustment. We're still very conservative. The revenue coming in, even the new slide alone, is gonna kill it. So we'll be okay.
okay.
Have you ever had a department head come up with that much confidence on this? Everybody's like, well, it
I want her
depends,
crystal
it's this.
ball. I
you
just want
know.
one peek into it.
She has it, apparently. I would agree with her, though, with the water slide up, I think we're going to blow that number out of the water. No pun intended.
Yeah,
We're going to slide
It
it out of the
wasn't,
water.
actually. Anything else for Ann while she's there? Yeah, Corey?
I have nothing.
I agree with the 294,000. I would like to see or know what some of these projects are, though.
Sure. So they were from our budget presentation initially, and then they're ranked in the top listing between executive staff. So the first one is the upper level path replacement for 45.5. The CRC architectural plan or an evaluation that gives us a plan moving forward. CRC plumbing repair, we talked about the P-traps at the rec center, which is just kind of a minimal plumbing repair to make sure that things are flushing and moving through the building. And then some greenway maintenance budget. Give us some dollars to actually repair some trails so we can make those repairs. We haven't had a dime to make those repairs and we get a lot of calls.
I fully support it.
Okay. All right.
No. Sure. Yeah,
You, okay.
keep going.
All right. Oh,
A
Linda?
quick comment. I am really excited to hear you talk about the maintenance on trails, because that is one of the things I know we all get emailed about and talked to about, but it's one of the things I hear about the most, that we have this wonderful trail system, but we need to maintain it. And especially when people see us, and it's not us, but when the Portneuf Greenway Foundation adds new trails, then it brings up the maintenance issue of the existing trails. So thank you for putting that in there.
Okay. Looks like we're moving
Cemetery, I'm
forward
gonna
with
make her
that.
stay here.
Okay, cemetery.
So cemetery came in, about 33,000 underwater, and Ann and her staff worked really hard to get this down to, looking at fees and things like that, to get it down to 11,000, but we're still underwater. I would like to take some of the money from the excess general fund, or figure out how to do that and move it down to help cemetery and get it funded correctly. And I know that we want to increase those fees and we need to do some work there, but that Ann's working on that. Is that fair?
Corey?
Will this increase in the fees, do we see that as a possible structure to rebalance this out, or?
We increased revenue. I just wasn't comfortable increasing enough to balance it. I'm not as confident there.
Her crystal ball doesn't predict deaths as well.
That's right. Doesn't hit the cemetery.
Different channel.
That's right.
I just had a thought as we were talking about that. Are we taking money from excess fees for maintenance programs? Are these one-time capital outlays? Are we going to have to continue doing this each year?
Right now, I would say it's operating and not capital projects. I think we'll probably get closer to balancing it and not have to do this every year. But we have made some changes between staffing, and we're just trying to find the perfect balance there.
I guess the question, bigger than just your department, goes back to Gene. Is that what we're doing when we take this reserve money? Are we doing maintenance and operation stuff that are gonna be ongoing?
So what I'm trying to do is make sure that we can balance the budget with operational, right? Because it's not sustainable if you're grabbing your excess reserves to do these one-off things or to actually do operations. And I don't want to get off too far, but I was just this GFOA thing that Bonnie and I went to, and one of the biggest problems was what is life after ARPA? And so a lot of the cities took the ARPA money and they used it to fund the general fund. And so after 26, they're going to be in a world of hurt. We have been very, very articulate and planned that the mayor's direction that we use ARPA for one-time things. It has never come into the general fund. And so we're very specifically on these budgets trying to make sure that operational is funded by revenues that come in, and only in a few cases, like with, the cemetery, where we have to grab some general reserve funds or something to fund it while we get a chance to get the operational, the revenues and the expenditures to balance. Is that?
Thank you.
Absolutely. Sorry to be long-winded.
Any other questions while Ann is up there? We good with that?
My request again is to take 33,000 to make sure that we get this up. And I know it's 11,000 short, but she's cutting where I don't think she should. And I really appreciate her doing that, but I'd like to grab 33,000 from somewhere else out of that excess to make sure that she's funded correctly on the cemetery.
So what are we not funding if we don't do that with that $22,000?
I took out, increased revenue slightly. I took out a little bit of seasonal, and then I took out a capital line for the equipment that we had, figuring that if that equipment failed, we would have to come back to you for the ask for the full thing, because it was about $12,000. It wasn't enough to replace it.
When you say seasonal, are you talking about seasonal employees?
Yep. Cut that line by $5 or $6 grand to try to balance.
We comfortable? I got a head nod. Couple, yeah.
Do all,
Corey?
I'm just worried that all those cuts are going to harm you down the road and leave you like in a lurch. And I don't necessarily like that.
So that's why Gene would like to bounce it back to the 33 and funded the full thing opposed to the 11.6.
And again, Corey, if I can, the idea again is we're trying to get it to where she can increase fees and get her expenses in line, but it's going to take 1, maybe 2 years. That's such a small amount of the entire budget that I think it's really important that we do that, because cemetery and parks, as you know, have been the stepchild for a long time. And it's not, I don't think it's anybody's fault, it's just, we really need to fix these things.
I keep going back to the truck that you had to hit a tree to stop on at the cemetery.
It was in 1983.
Oh, dang.
Rick,
Does this in any way address the fence issue that we've discussed?
It does not.
that's something we will need to either add into or get some numbers and do a budget amendment in December on.
But we also need more discussion on the concept there
Yeah.
of whether we need to fence the whole thing, whether
gonna
we
rip
can
the
salvage
fence
some of
out
the
and,
old, or, yeah.
No, we're not really gonna do that.
Ever,
We're gonna see, that's a bigger discussion,
Yeah.
but this does not include any fencing of any sort.
not to open the can of worms, I can't tell you how many cemeteries have chain link fences that I've now noticed after that
I
discussion.
started noticing it too.
Tons of them everywhere, like in the state, have chain link fences. Anyway, I don't want to go down that road, but
On that note,
We won't go down that road, but I've noticed it too. I've started to pay
And I
attention.
have too, but we haven't made a decision yet. That's a later discussion.
So we good with the 33,000 being put in and using the excess reserves?
yes.
I'm comfortable personally, so,
Yes.
okay, let's
Thank
do
you.
that.
Thank you very much, Ann.
Next one is airport. You know, we're fine here, but just wanted to, I've added $46,000 in their capital reserve, which goes to, basically to fund future acquisitions of equipment and things like that. You know, and when we're talking about tires and stuff on the equipment wearing out, I just want to make sure that you're okay with that. I've included that in their budget. But I think we're fine there.
From their excess reserves?
No, just from balancing out their revenues and their
Oh, okay.
expenditures.
Where does that show in here? I mean,
It-
you said
It
46,000?
doesn't.
Okay.
No, let me just show you. I'm sorry. It was a late night last night. So 16.5 to replace their air conditioner, the final air conditioning unit. Christie, if you need any comments, you're welcome to come up. And then 50K again to put away for 46, 50K to put away for future purchases as needed.
So that's 66.5?
Yeah,
But it's already built with that in there?
it's already building. Yep.
Okay.
Just a point.
Or we could reduce the property tax ask.
We could do that. Actually, they get such a small amount. I mean, it's like 0.006, and we have maxed out the 3%. It's $993,072 or something like that, and I've maxed it out. Maxed out every one of these individual tax levy areas to the max they can get. We okay?
Yep.
All right. Library. This is one where we'll have to have some discussion about it. It's $96,000 short. I don't know if we need to, what council would like to do here, whether we want to take again from reserves or something, or cut operational stuff like we've had to do in a couple other departments is.
Mr. Mayor?
I don't see,
Is that full 96,000 operational?
Yeah, there's
What,
no capital.
what is
there.
it? Do we know what it's for?
Well, it's personnel. It's again, the difference between the estimated revenue, the tax, and what small fees they bring in and their expenditures. And so it's all really based on the increase in salaries and medical care and stuff like that, so.
okay, Brent?
So could you educate me here? So the library has its own levy rate?
Yes.
Separate from
Yes.
the others, is that, and that's where we get the 2,187,000,
Correct.
correct? Plus 37,000 in fees. So typically, does the library work within that budget as far as what it receives on its own tax allocation?
Yes, it has.
Okay.
The only thing that we had to fund out was, the broken elevator, right?
Right.
We had to bring that out of reserves to fund that.
But not this year. This year, we're 96,000.
In the hole,
In the
there are some, and again, I'm trying to get it to where, again, where operationally they can stand on their own, right? But if I put in, let's see. So they have 190 in reserves that could be used to do this. That's excess reserves. But again, to me, it's very important that we get operational and stuff lined up, because if we don't, we're just kicking the can down the road. And so but I need council's help here.
I would be interested in seeing, after the insurance discussion, if we make the consideration for Select Health or Pacific Source over Blue Cross, what that number would look like at that point before making recommendations of adjustments to operational budgets. Because if that adjusts it by even $20,000 or $30,000 because benefits go down, I don't know what percentage it actually would be. Maybe it's less than that, how much. But I mean, those decisions are very different in the context after we know exactly on the benefits. So I think that there are going to have to be some adjustments to operations, but the amount is going to depend greatly on which benefits package is selected.
Okay, Rick and then Brent?
I would like to see a breakdown of the operational expenses in the library.
So would I.
To see exactly whether we're talking salaries or we're talking buying movies or
Sure.
whatever else that could amount to.
That's, yeah, I want to know what that is.
So, because we're potentially looking at an entirely new dynamic here. anywhere there, we're essentially subsidizing the library above and beyond what they receive in tax revenue?
Yeah, and I'm not in favor of
That's
that.
expenses
But, right, but am I correct that that's what we're looking at?
Yes.
for
Yeah,
Fund
that,
7.
yeah, that could be a dangerous precedent.
So we're pulling up the line item budgets, if you want to go over those, or I can bring them to you next, on Thursday.
So the question is the 96,000, what is that paying? for?
Right.
Well, actually, it's the whole maintenance operational budget.
It's, yeah, the whole,
What is in there? I mean,
the 2.3 million.
Okay.
How about if we bring back a summary of this on
You'll need to
Thursday?
bring back a summary, get it printed out so we can understand it and
All right, so we'll defer that one, and I'll bring that back.
bring that back Thursday.
So we're going to the,
Yeah, hold on just a minute, Gene.
Gene, could you roll back that $43,000 total there? Where's that coming from?
I'm sorry.
where's that at?
It says governmental tax, 43 million.
43,400,000.
So that is the total tax, property tax that we get. And the delta between the revenues here and is the other income, interest income, sales tax sharing, stuff like that. So you can see this is the 20 million is the other side, and then the 24, so that makes up the total general fund. And when you come down to this 43 million, this is strictly the tax.
All right.
That's
And then-
strictly the tax on property.
And then we add in, like you said, interest and fees.
Yeah, the fees.
That
and
go in
there's,
there.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So is that the updated amount from the county, the best estimate of what we're going to see in fiscal '25?
Yes. Well, I mean, I've been working with, we haven't got the L2 yet, or
Right.
things from the county, but that is the best estimate. It was like 33. So the number that we used to get the 3% is 33 million approximately. Last year we got 953,000 or something like that. This year we get like I said, it's $993,072 without taking any type of a foregone or something like that.
Good.
Okay?
Transit is always kind of out because that it's a reimbursement base. So I'm not concerned about that unless Skylar's got something he wants to comment on. I'm pretty comfortable with those. Because again, it's always just, we're gonna have a timing difference between the two. Again, the Chief Theater, it's got 21,000 left, so it's got 2 more years, right, before it is utilized. It's stuff. And please just interrupt me. I'm gonna go pretty quick through these, so just interrupt me. Emergency repair, again, Fund 16, Fund 78, we talked about funding 250,000 to 16 and 750 into Fund 78. That's coming out of the excess interest earned, so it's not a burden on the taxpayers, but we're putting money away, for like when this HVC needs to be, I'm saying that wrong, right? Air conditioner needs to be repaired, that 1.5 million that Richard estimates that. We're starting to build that base up, and then also Fund 16, again, is emergency repairs, where we have not funded that, I think, to an adequate level. Good?
Can we go back to that Chief Theater?
Yeah.
Sure. You want me to slide to the, go ahead.
So you're saying there's excess reserves in the
No,
Chief Theater?
not excess reserves, it was fund, and again, you guys, the mayor may have to help me on this. There was a certain amount of a settlement or a contribution where it was X, and we get $10,000 a year. At 21,000 is what is, basically it's 21,000 is left, right? So we've got 2 more years at the 10,000 rate.
That's from the insurance settlement?
That's for the insurance settlement on the Chief Theater, and that 10,000 a year goes to the Arts Council. And so that's where that Arts Council money comes. You'll have 2 years, and then there'll be $1,000 remaining. What is that? $1,005. Yeah, if they use it all, then year number 3 from here, they'll have $1,500.
It's a lot of these, that's right.
And then that line item will go away because we don't have it anymore.
On the science environment, again, $3,000. I've talked to Hannah. She's going to reduce her expenditures by $3,000 to cover that. Again, got to make this stuff balanced, right? Can't just keep increasing the revenue side or the tax ask. We need to be
Yeah.
on the grant side. Christine can come up, but I think these are the, they're going to spend what they bring in grants. So this is going to move all over, but this is kind of where we're at. You okay, Christine, wherever she's at? Okay.
So that's based on anticipated grants,
Right.
income received.
Yes.
Is it grants funding that has not yet been granted?
I believe most of this has been granted. Is that? I'll let Christine speak to it.
I guess I wonder how good her crystal ball is too.
Christine, our grants manager, these are all grants that we've been awarded and are
Okay.
budgeted for. So we have grant agreements in place, and those are all the projected expenditures for that fiscal year.
Okay.
And as Jean mentioned, everything we expend, we then get reimbursed by the feds through that grant agreement. So it nets to zero.
Okay,
So much.
super.
ARPA. This is the estimated spend for the ARPA projects that we have for 25. And that leaves, we had that full 10 million or 10.7. And you guys have gone over, Jeff's gone over this. So I think it's pretty straightforward that these funds will be expended in 25. And then I think the balance is like 2 million for 26. Public safety grant, I think pretty well taken care of. CD loan program, Christine does a great job in balancing that. Or we're loaning to trying to help out those that are less fortunate and having issues with their homes, et cetera. Abatement, balances out, so we're good there. The debt services, the bonds and stuff, basically put away money to fund those, so that's pretty straightforward on those. And then we jump into, where did it go? So on the federal AIDS projects, these are grants, or, is that correct, Tom? Yeah, the grants that we expend and go on that. And under Fund 71, we have been awarded 950,000 worth. And we only recognize the 703 because we've already received 247,000 of those grants that have been awarded. So that balances out, to zero based on what's already been received. No, is not. Airport construction balances, water construction projects, as you know, they fund that out of their savings that they have. So again, I think those are pretty straightforward.
One quick question.
Yes.
You said on the 73, 270,000?
On
Isn't that
so on 71,
2.7 million?
So 71, the 200, correct me if I'm wrong, Linda, the 247,000 was, what, Jeff? What was that? It was from the street.
Yeah, it's from the Brandon Trail.
Brenda Trail, we received that.
Okay.
It's already come in, and we're gonna expend the 950, the full amount of those grants. So the delta is just money we've already received in fiscal year 24.
Okay.
Okay? And then building renovation, capital improvements. This again is the Fund 78 that I previously talked about, right? Where we're gonna fund 750,000 into this to help build up for capital acquisitions and like the HVAC, it's the HVAC, right? The air conditioning, get that right. Okay. And then the retirement payout is what we funded last year. We took the excess savings from salaries, and we funded that to get that funded up to par. So you kind of see this kind of ebb and flow where we'll refund it kind of monthly as we go, and then expenses will go out to do all the types of retirement payout.
Mr. Mayor, what we're talking about, that retirement payout, that's a police retirement?
No, It's not the police retirement. This is, I mean, Heather.
The annual retirement that comes from,
The
okay.
people, and, you know, people that are let go, laid off, quit, their buildup of stuff.
Just on the 952's government.
And it's cut off on here, but that was salary savings from fiscal year
23.
23?
That we used
Okay.
to fund it. No, no. You're great. You know, and again, information systems, fleet, utility billing, employee wellness, public works, we're pretty well good. Education, that's an easy one, you know, I can take care of that shortfall there. Oh, we're 6,000 short, so I think I can pull that down and work with the mayor, make sure that balances.
Pull that down from the
General fund.
general fund. We good with that, council?
We've been carrying a surplus in that education account, haven't we?
Let's find out.
Heather's on her way up.
$187,000 is what is in the, thank you.
Heather Buchanan, Human Resources Director. We have carried funds from year to year. This is a year where we do need to request funding. In the presentation I gave way back in May, it was broken down by fund. I don't know if this is the general fund difference or if that's pulled from the enterprise funds, but the request is much larger. Jean's right. It's a small request to actually pull in, and I don't know if that's general fund. I'd have to defer to Jean on that.
I think it's everything.
Okay. It's small.
Okay, it looks like we'll be doing that.
Good with that.
Thanks, Heather. Move into the enterprise. If I can get this cursor to work for me. We have to have IT donate a mouse to me. So sanitation, you know, per the rate study, you know, all three of the enterprises, water, WPC, and sanitation, get a 3% increase, 5 years based again on this rate study that we did. All of these, you know, expenditures, where they're over, they're just strategically, we've been saving, you know, for different things we're doing, like the building. So I'm perfectly comfortable with that, unless you have questions. On Fund 35, ambulance, right, is based on the county. You know, we won't know until the county does it. And Eric, or I mean, Ryan, you've already given your presentation to the county, right? So we just have to wait and we'll find out what the county comes back with. So I don't know if there's anything we can do there for right now.
So we won't know on that until they set their L2?
That's correct. That's as I understand it. Yeah, we won't really know. We need to budget for it. And that way we can expend it when it comes in. If they budget less, then that number goes down. If,
We're really setting the expenditure budget then?
Yes.
Spending authority.
yeah.
And we will have, as the mayor was alluding to, we'll already have our budget basically in place before we even kind of know where they're at.
Yeah. So it's with that ambulance is basically spending authority.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I actually have a question for Heather, if we could, real quick, while we're talking about the ambulance here. You had talked about the 6 paramedic positions that the county would fund that would be a pass-through in the case of, that we would just do a budget amendment partway through if the county gives us the authority for 6 additional paramedics. How does that interact with the new paramedic stipend as opposed to identified positions?
I don't know. That's why it's not in this.
We were talking about that yesterday
I mean,
afternoon.
I could lie to you. I don't know. I
Okay.
believe it would go in at a firefighter level.
Okay.
Heather, you have to learn the term "it depends."
I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you straight out. I don't know. It's really,
And that's why you've chosen not to include
That's
it
right.
here. Okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay, thanks.
We have one, Heather?
It's for Gene.
Oh, never mind. Gene.
So on the ambulance, can you walk me through the revenue and the expenditures? The $4,800,000, that is expected to come from what source? The county?
That comes from the county,
In entirety?
I think so.
And then, but we're projecting expenses of $5,171,000. Is
Right,
that
and that's-
right? Are we anticipating that the county's gonna make up that difference, so we're not
Yes.
subsidizing the ambulance?
Yes. And again, it's because when Ryan did his presentation, we didn't have the exact breakout of the employees yet. And so that's kind of the delta.
Yeah, but the expectation is that would zero out.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then I swear I gotta get them out, my apologies. The final one is just the police retirement. And again, their typical income right now is about 200, we're earning 5% on, $4 million. And so it's about 200K comes in. The expenditures are still 700,000 because I think we're 15 police retirees in that, 15 participants. But they're aging. I mean, they're really getting up there. So I would imagine that this will drop off. And the actuarials, again, like we talked about when we did this, is to have this funded at $4 million, and it should get us there. So I think we're going to be fine there. And that is it.
Was that, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
The police retirement, is that where we were talking about interest, using
Yes, we took.
additional
We
interest?
took $2 million, if you remember, from the fiscal '23, where we had budgeted like $98,000 in interest, and we had $3 million that came in. We took $2 million of that to fund the police retirement to get it up to where the actuarial study was saying we needed to be. And then we took the other $1 million to fund the reserve for workers' comp.
Okay, okay. And now we are at where we need to
Yeah,
be
it's-
after,
and obviously, we can't, the expectation of when people are living and dying is
Right.
increased. So
Right.
the best of our ability on the actuarial, that should get us there.
that's,
We'll
it gets
find
us
out.
to
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Okay.
So if we're okay with this, with the actions we have, we'll go ahead, we'll make these changes. We'll be presented on Thursday and work with the mayor to make these changes. And I appreciate your time if there's no more questions.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay, I think we're good. So we just need to make sure that on Thursday morning, this is what we'll be talking about here to finalize that budgeting process. And
You'll have the library summary.
We'll have the library summary. And in fact, I'll try to mail that to you in advance if we can try and get that done so that you have a chance to look at it beforehand.
yeah, if we can get that this afternoon, they can take a look at it, and this will give you a day tomorrow to think about it and sleep on it and then look at this. But this is, I mean, as I look at this budget, we are pretty good shape. It's not in the red, is where we thought it was going to be.
It's gonna be worse.
And we'll work, I'll be working a little bit with Gene here on an L2. We've got to get that filled out so we can see where we really are. So we'll work with that and we'll go from there. Okay, questions, council, any others before we end? Rick?
When we talk about income, revenue, are the various revenue sharing sources from the state included in the revenues here
Yes, they
somewhere?
are.
Where do I see those?
I'll have to print you a copy of it because I've kind of been using this as a, if you will, a live interactive data, bringing data in to make it work. I'll print you, I'll copy everyone on it.
Thank you.
But it just, again, the reduction there, if you remember from last time, was on the shared sales tax that the AIC had, last year was at 7 million, they brought it down to 6 million. That's kind of but yeah, happy to do that. Or if you want to walk over, I can pull it up for you right after this meeting.
Okay. All right, I keep getting, we're in good shape. We're in good shape. Any other last questions? All right, then, that sounds good. Thank you very much, Gene. Thank you for the staff for everything you've done. With that, we will look forward to Thursday morning with the final budget presentation and some direction so that we can move forward with what we need to in July. So thank you very much. With that, we are adjourned.